And here we go. Everybody's here. Hey, Barbara. Hey, Colleen. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Oh, my goodness. Sorry. The sound is loud. I am just excited, so I'm talking very loud. Okay. So thank you guys for joining today. And like I said, today's a very exciting episode because our guest, Wilson McCourtney, as I mentioned before, I'm a big fan of his work. And it's going to be incredible. We're going to get to take a look at everything today. But today what we want to talk about is sharks. Now, a lot of us, Sally, hey Mom, glad to see you on here today too. Thanks for joining. And as my mom knows, I love sharks, and we always talk about this kind of because she says, well, but they want to eat me. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today. Hey, Amy, and there's Amy's in. Amy works with Fin Free in DC and Baltimore area, trying to stop the fin trade and stop fins from being sold, purchased, and consumed all throughout the U.S. Hey, Aunt Betsy. My Aunt Betsy's here too. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining in today. And I'm glad Aunt Betsy's here because she's in the Midwest, and you'd think, well, why would sharks matter? Which actually is fantastic because it brings me to my quote of the day by Dr. Sylvia Earle. And if you're not familiar with Dr. Sylvia Earle, check out the documentary Mission Blue, or you can read, I love her books. They're incredible. So anyway, Sylvia Earle says, everybody has the capacity to do something. Even if you never have the chance to see or touch the ocean touches you with every breath you take, every drop of water you drink, every bite you consume. Everyone, everywhere, is inextricably connected to and utterly dependent upon the existence of the sea. So it's a very beautiful quote, and I think it's a very important quote because the ocean regulates our temperatures, it regulates our CO2. It does so much for us, and it does things that we don't even notice. Hey, Andrea's here. Hey, Andrea, thank you for tuning in, and glad to have you here. And Grady loves sharks. Great. Okay, well, he's going to love this episode too. Well, parts of it. You might not want to talk to him about other parts. So sharks are really extraordinary. For me personally, on a personal level, when I had my first very serious surgery, I was down for about 6 months, couldn't walk or anything. And I ended up spending all my time studying and learning about sharks and thinking, when I get back up, if I can ever do it again, I'm going to go swim with them, and I'm going to go protect them because they're very misunderstood. And luckily to say, the path has taken me in that way, and I've had a great opportunity to be able to interact with different sharks, and there's still so many more to see and do. So, the thing about them is they're very misunderstood. For example, in the U.S., on average, one person dies each year from a shark bite. Now, there are approximately between maybe 50 to 100 reported interactions with sharks. Meanwhile, humans kill about 100 million sharks a year. Now, on the bright side of things, there's over 350 species of sharks. Just imagine, that's incredible. That is a huge variety, and sharks live everywhere, from the deepest part of the ocean to the closest bit to shore. And most people think, oh no, that's very frightening because now I'm going to be near sharks. But in fact, over 80% of the sharks are under 5 feet long, and you never even see them. They're terrified of us. I've been diving before and had little teeny sharks that are maybe 9-10 inches just sitting on my hand resting. Beautiful. They're beautiful creatures. But the problem is 90% of the sharks worldwide are gone due to overfishing and fin harvesting. Now, this is a huge problem. First, I want to say hey to Michelle. Thank you. I'm glad to see you back here today. And Coralie, always nice to see you on the show. And Vivian, I'm glad to see you on as well. Kia ora over in New Zealand. And, you guys do a lot of shark protection, whereas Australia, well, they do a lot of shark culling. So there's always work for conservationists, no doubt. The sharks, okay, the thing we understand is we're not on the menu. Sharks do not eat us. Sharks are looking for the sick, the dying, and the dead in the ocean. They're the white blood cells of the ocean. They swim around purely looking for example, if there's a huge pack of seals going, then what they'll do is they'll look for the one seal that's really sick or old or dying or dead, and they'll eat that one because the the ironic thing is the sharks are the perfect apex predator, and at the same time they're very clumsy hunters, and you can see that in a lot of things. They have amazing skills to go in, but very often they don't get the seals that they're going for, and so it's very difficult for them at the moment also. Barbara, I'm surprised there are sharks in the oceans, human or parasites. Yes, you know, Barbara, it's sad because there is a lot of unfortunately, the ones that are out there are being targeted. Now, they're being targeted mostly for shark fin soup, which this is a shark that I took a shot of over in the Philippines, and it had been, you can see this is the body where the fin had been removed. So they take the fins. Hey, Elena, thanks for joining today. They take the fins and they'll use it for these traditional soups. Now, I'm going to show some video that's a little disturbing, and I want to show everybody what happens with these shark fins. And what we're seeing here is, and now this video, I have to say, this video is from David McGuire of Shark Stewards, used as courtesy by him. And this is some horrible video that he was managed to catch overseas. And this is the way that it works, you know. Basically, the fins are worth a lot. Now, the meat's not really worth much because you've got to remember that most shark meat is filled with mercury. You know, when you've got all this mercury and all these things leaching into the oceans now, then what we're finding is that as each fish grows, biomagnification increases the mercury. And sorry, that footage is just, the footage is really hard to watch. Thank you. First of all, I want to say thank you to Shark Stewards, and I want to say thank you to David McGuire for going over there and putting your camera there and showing us what's really happening. Because the more we can see it, the more we can understand it, the more we can be called to stop it. Because this is something that's easily stopped. And there have been efforts around the world. And when our guest comes on here in about 15 minutes, we're going to talk to him about how they're trying to stop shark finning right now in Florida, and how it's going, and some of the opposition that's going to be happening through there. Now, unfortunately, that is one of the problems. Now, you know, sometimes they'll take these sharks and they will sadly, I'm going to show you guys some shots from the markets, and these are the sharks. You know, these are the ones that have been landed with their fins, but very often what they'll do is, sorry, where is this? Here we go. Very often what they'll do is, I'll just show you guys a few more here, the numbers that they're pulling out, and then they're going to cut all the fins off and then be able to really not do much with the meat. And the numbers are staggering. You know, again, 90% of all sharks are gone. Now, the main reason behind it, there is bycatch. There's always bycatch. Bycatch is definitely an issue, and many sharks are caught with bycatch. But the problem is that when that happens, they are still finned and then removed. So I wanted to share with you all a video that I shot over in the Philippines. Now, this is when I was working with Earth Race, and we were with the Navy SEALs Special Ops teams, and we were actually boarding illegal fishing vessels. And this one, just to give you guys an idea, this is a Philippine vessel. We're out in the middle of the ocean, and Vietnamese boats have come in and basically gone in. Now, you can see the body of the shark here, and what they do is they chop it up. Let's see, come back in here. Here we go. So you get to see the body. And, you know, this is the problem. They've gutted it. You can see all the fins have been removed. And a lot of times fishermen will just land these things that look like, you know, they're hard to tell. You don't know what the species was. You don't know exactly anything about it. So by the time it gets to this point, it's really difficult for regulation, which is why finning regulation is so important. Now this fin, and you can see the top, there's that video piece again, and that's what it looks like when it's been removed from the body. Very often the sharks are alive when this happens, and they actually will kick the shark. I'm not going to show you guys video of this, but they'll actually fin them while they're alive and then push them back off the side of the boat, and the sharks then try to swim and suffocate at the bottom of the ocean. You know, it's hard to gain sympathy for sharks because in our popular imagination, people are very terrified of sharks. And the reason is we use this term incorrectly. We use, hey Sherry, thanks for joining. Thank you, and thank you. I really appreciate it. I always like to see you on the show here with us. But I wanted to just send out a personal plea, if everyone can stop using the word shark attack. Discovery Channel, Shark Week gets everybody all riled up. But in fact, there are no attacks. It's not intentional. We're not on the menu. They're on our menu and they need our help. We attack them. Again, under 100 people are bit by sharks, and over 100 million sharks are killed every year by humans. So, you know, we've how do you say this? We've seen this sort of in the wrong light, and we need to rethink how we're thinking about sharks now. They're actually a very important part of the ecosystem. Again, they're not out to eat us, and we need to learn more about them because as our populations grow, and theirs dwindle, and their food supplies dwindle, and the oceans are dying, and they're looking for more food, we're going to have more human-shark interactions. So we need to know what to do because there are ways that we can avoid interactions, and there are things that we should learn about them to understand them instead of just fear them. That's the key, is if we can learn more about them, we won't fear them quite so much, and we'll stop saying shark attack. Please, it's not an attack. They're exploratory bites. They don't have hands. So when they see something, they bite it. And I know sometimes that can turn in fatal, and it's very, very tragic when that does happen, but it's not intentional. And again, it's not a shark attack. The shark's not like, get him, you know. It's basically like, is this a seal? Gross. I don't want to eat this, and then he swims away. Most shark bites are one bite. Very rarely does a shark go back for a second bite. So I just want to give you all a very strong basis of you know, where the basics of what the sharks are facing in the world right now. And what I want to do, though, now is defer to our guest today, Wilson McCourtney. And what I want to do is, Wilson was nice enough to send over a video for us to play, so I'm going to share that with everybody right now. And then when we come back from watching the video, we'll talk to Wilson live. And remember, for everybody that's just joining us for the first time today, you can write your questions and your comments on Facebook. You can do it on YouTube, and they will pop up here on the screen. So you have a wonderful opportunity to speak with Wilson or ask me questions, and I want everybody to be involved. Camilla says, Chris, thanks to be witnesses. Yeah, it's, Camilla, it's very difficult, a lot of times, especially when it comes to the shark finning stuff. It's difficult, and it's difficult because there's also the aspect of fishing, and we're going to actually get into that when we get back, when we talk to Wilson. So here, I'm going to go ahead and pop this video on, and we'll be right back with our special guest.
I grew up in Sarasota, Florida, and I just basically spent a lot of time on the water with my dad. And we would always see dolphins, manatees, and I would visit Mote Marine Laboratory, which was founded by Eugenie Clark as a kid. And I just was always fascinated by sharks. And I had a deep love for the ocean. and I would go down to the Florida Keys and snorkel and be on the reef and see sharks and fish, and it just captivated my heart. So I kind of was trying to find my way in the world all throughout my 20s as a filmmaker, and I sort of came out of that fog when I turned 30, and I had to sort of take a deep look at what I really wanted to do with life. And wildlife, stole my heart from the beginning. So I really kind of decided to, put all my attention into being a wildlife filmmaker and being a conservationist and trying to fight for these beautiful, majestic animals. And it has landed me in a really beautiful spot where I get to film sharks quite often and spend a good amount of time in the ocean and sort of fight for them on the back end. People are terrified of sharks. I'd say 90% of the general population they think I'm insane when I show them my shark video or some of my footage. They go, "How, you weren't in a cage? I don't understand. What's happening? You guys are petting the sharks. This can't be real." And I'm like, you know what? First and foremost, sharks are really beautiful, majestic creatures. They're not ferocious man-eaters. Like you said, we're not on their menu. And in fact, they're very, very intelligent and they're calculated, but they also thrive on human interaction. So when you're actually underwater with sharks and you have good visibility and they can see you and there's no question about the fact that then they open up and they just sort of swim around you and they actually come up for a little you pat them on the back or rub their fin, as you see in this video, and they're actually just really beautiful creatures that I'm lucky enough to spend some time with. So it's just trying to make that paradigm shift in people's minds. But we've had a lot of issues with the movie Jaws and these shark attacks that are happening on beaches. People are just really, really scared. And, like you said, we need a new term, the shark attack. And one of my good friends, Jim Abernathy, taught me to say shark mistake. These are mistakes. It's just an accident. A lot of these sharks that are, accidentally hitting people on the beach are younger sharks. They're more inexperienced. The water's murky. They don't really know that you're not on their menu, and so they go in to investigate and they take a little bite, and sometimes it could be a really bad outcome. And that's unfortunate, but that's just part of the growing population. As more and more people are on the planet, there's more people on the beach, and we're in their backyard. And these things will happen. But like you said, we're eradicating sharks so fast, it makes my head spin. Shark populations are down 90%. We kill over 100 million sharks a year. That is insane. So compared to 100 people that may die a year from, or not even die, like 100 people that are bit by a shark, million that killing for the fin trade and other issues, we're going to have a really, really big problem coming up when all the sharks are gone from the ocean, because they keep it in balance and they're just integral to the ecosystem.
Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of people sort of miss is the point that they are, like we kind of mentioned earlier, the white blood cells. They work with the ocean. The ocean was designed for them, not for us so much. We're lucky to visit, those of us that choose to dive in there. But it really, it's set up for them to be perfect, predators. What do you fear if this continues at this rate? How do you see the ecosystem itself, tipping the balance?
Sure. So first of all, I'd like to say that sharks have been on this planet for 400 million years. There was literally sharks in the ocean before there were trees on the planet.
Wow.
Okay? Think about that for a second. Sharks were here before trees. Okay? So these are some of the best evolved creatures that we have. So they've been around a really, really long time. They've survived over 5 mass extinctions. Now they're going through the 6th, which is human, finning and fishing. And I think that a world without sharks is going to be really, really scary. I mean, they are the lifeblood of the ocean. They are sort of the police of the ocean. They go in and they prey on the weak, the sick, and the dying, and they keep everything in check. So basically, without sharks, seals' behavior will change, fish behavior will change, turtles behavior will change, and that will affect the evolutionary process of all of these marine animals. And we really, really need sharks in our oceans to keep it happy and healthy. I don't know what it will look like. We don't know, but it's coming, and it's coming like a freight train. So we need to really protect these animals and stop the fin trade.
So I was going to say, yeah, that's one thing we can really do right here on land is try to fight back and stop this terrible fin trade. The video that we played earlier, I know is a little disturbing for everybody, that David McGuire had shot from Shark Stewards. Thank you, David. That video gives us a horrible, brutal, realistic, honest look at what these sharks face every day. Some that are alive, some that are dead. It just breaks. I remember just being struck when I learned that they did it while they were still alive, and then sent them back in to die. And
there's other videos that show a shark, getting his fins cut off and then dumped back in the ocean with no fins on it. That's actually the scarier video, because you just slowly watch him drown to the bottom and just like hit the bottom and then flail out. And that is a really depressing video. I think a guy, Sean Heinrich, shot that one, and that hit me so hard when I saw that. So
for the fin trade, let's talk right now. I mean, a lot of people might not even know. Real quick, I want to say, hey, Vicky, thanks for joining us. Vicky Palmer, another big water advocate down in Florida. I see a lot of people from Florida here today, Wilson, joining, so I think this is great. That's hey, Camilla, thanks for. Camilla says, we invade their environment. We need a complete re-education starting with children. We must remove this mindset and stop eating fish by catching them in error as bycatch. And Camilla, I think that's actually a great point. We need to re-educate, and that's, one of the aspects that I'm excited about that Wilson's working on is trying to stop the fin trade. So Wilson, people may not be familiar with it. It's almost an invisible problem that's visible right within our own culture. Could you kind of help us understand what's happening around us and what your efforts are to make that stop?
Sure. So the market's being driven by Asia and China, specifically for the consumption of shark fin soup, which first I just want to say is a pretty tasteless, odorless bowl of poison. Okay. Now, when I say a bowl of poison, I mean that since sharks are the predators, they eat all the smaller fish on the food chain. So by the time they consume all those little fish, shark meat is actually so full of mercury and other just toxins that it's a really bad idea to even eat shark in general, a fillet or a shark fin soup. So it's a cultural thing with China, it's a delicacy and it's a status. They've been driving the fin trade for, I'd say, at least the past 30, 40 years. And what's happening is a lot of sharks are being caught in Latin and Central America. They're being finned, and then they're being shipped to the United States to be put on an airplane and flown to China. So inadvertently, United States, even though we don't fin that many sharks ourselves, we allow the ports to be open to trade and sell these fins. So that's what we're trying to fight against right now here in the state of Florida, because Miami, he's become the new hub for the fin trade, and it's gotten out of control. So basically what's happening is historically there has been a big game of whack-a-mole. Okay, so first Hawaii decided to ban the import and export of fins, so that shut down that port. Then it moved to California, where LA became the port. Then California caught wind of it and said, we don't want to be involved in any of that heinous practice. We're going to shut down our port too. Then it moved to Texas, and Texas decided we don't want any involvement either. They shut it down. Then it all moved to Miami. And I'd say for the past 3, 4, 5 years, Miami has now been the huge hub. And so I myself teamed up with Shark Allies, and our fearless leader, Stephanie Brendel, should take the lion's share of all of this credit, because she is a warrior on the front lines, in and out of this political process, pushing the bills. So I tagged along as a worker bee for Shark Allies, and that's where I learned all the ins and outs of what we can do to pass this piece of legislation that will be historical for the state and end up saving millions of sharks around the world. So as it stands right now, we have 2 bills running simultaneously, one in the House and one in the Senate. And the House bill passed unanimously, all three committees pretty much. And now we're waiting on the third and final Senate bill, and they will pick whichever bill is the strongest, make a maybe a little amendment to it, and then hopefully, if all those things go through and pass, they'll put it on Governor Ron DeSantis' desk for him to sign. And then that whether or not we have successfully outlawed the import and export of shark fins here in the state of Florida, which we will all be jumping up and down for because we've been working tirelessly on this for the past months. We've been writing emails, we've been calling senators, we've been driving to Tallahassee to attend these meetings to speak up on behalf of sharks. And basically, there's just a massive loophole. So back in 2000, Bill Clinton signed the Shark Finning Prohibition Act, which basically banned the act of finning, but there was a bunch of loopholes with that too. So the finning practice was still sort of going on. And back in 2012, Florida made it illegal to go out to sea on your boat, fin a shark, and just bring home the fins. So what was happening is a lot of people were finning sharks, and we weren't able to identify these sharks. So it's really an identification issue. So we didn't know if they were endangered hammerheads or if they were black tips or, silkies, duskies, whatever. So basically Florida stepped in and said, okay, well, if you want a shark fin, you have to land the animal whole. Okay. You have to bring it to port. And currently in the law, it states that each vessel is allowed 2 sharks per boat per day. So that has been the massive loophole in the sense that you can still sell those fins. Once you bring the whole animal back and cut the fins off, you're allowed to sell them. So just by saying that you're allowed to sell those fins, it opened up the Port of Miami to be a hub for the import-export of fins, all of which were coming from Latin America. About 20 days ago, we just had the biggest shark fin bust in Miami, in the Port of Miami. There was 1,400 pounds of fins that were seized by the FW. Wow. So this isn't just something that happened 3 or 4 years ago. This was like 2 weeks ago. So it's still ramped up. A lot of the fins are, like I said, come from Latin America. And we just have to make sure that we pass this law so that we shut down the ports. Unfortunately, with this thing, like I said, it's a game of whack-a-mole. Even if Florida shuts down Miami, it might pop up in Atlanta, Georgia, or wherever, somewhere on the Georgia coast. Who knows? So, but all we can do right now is to put our foot down and say that Florida does not want any involvement in the shark fin trade. And so far, we've just been getting a little bit of pushback from some of the commercial fishermen who are basically, just financially suffering, and they don't want any more regulations put on them. A lot of these guys are like shrimpers and stuff in the panhandle, and they have bycatch. And, if they need to, land a shark and sell a couple fins here just to make some money to put food on their table, they don't want us to take that ability away from them, right? So their whole argument is basically this. It's too bad that things are happening in China. It's too bad the sharks are getting killed, but please don't regulate us because we need to put food on the table. And we're saying, look, I'm sorry. We're going to go right over your head because, we can't allow any import and export of shark fins because it's destroying the ocean, and we need these animals to keep everything.
That's great to hear that, because it's important to know that there are these two sides, and it's very difficult because a lot of the fishermen, they're not intentionally trying to cause a lot of harm, but it is a financial kind of pressure. So to be able to work with them is got to be very important as everything moves forward, and hopefully they can find a way to align their interests. I know that a lot of the fishermen in Florida were very innovative in using new releases so that turtles could get through their nets. And there generally have been some of the most open fishermen to trying to advance things to, with the eyes of conservation.
Yeah.
So hopefully
these aren't bad people. They're just trying to make ends meet, and they're basically saying to us, please don't penalize us for what's going on in China. That's beyond our control. We need to do what we got to do to have sustainable shark fisheries here in Florida, and to help put food on the table for our family. And we're saying, yeah, we hear you, but unfortunately, just because we're allowing people to land a whole shark, 2 per day per boat, is also allowed 88,000 fins in 2017 were seized in Miami. That's the biggest amount of fins on record. And guess what? Those are just the fins that were caught.
Hmm.
What about all the fins that went right under the radar? So that could be, a couple 100,000 fins every year, that we just don't know about. So a lot of this is black market. A lot of this is underground, and we just don't have the numbers or the manpower to count all the fins. All we know is that Miami is the new hub, that's for sure, and that it needs to be shut down. And we're going to close this loophole and have a big victory for sharks, and all go on a massive shark dive and be happy and smile and pet some sharks and hang out.
That's the way to celebrate. And and Jupiter, Florida is very famous for having some of the best
Yeah,
shark diving in the world, and where you can see some of the most amazing sharks, some of
yeah,
the most famous footage that everybody always sees, involve, I think, right in Jupiter, and you, Jim Abernathy, and a lot
yeah.
of you guys. And I do want to say, Stephanie Brendel, she is a force to be reckoned with. She runs Shark Allies. She's amazing. She's a friend of mine. And
Yeah.
for those who aren't familiar with her, she actually was on Shark Tank and took Mark Cuban shark diving to sort of get everybody a little bit less afraid of getting in the water with sharks, because that's the big first moment, and everyone thinks, oh, you're going to jump in and they're going to start eating you. But Stephanie works tirelessly to change the image of sharks and also to stop finning. So she's another one of my eco heroes, and I was always hoping to maybe get her on the show one
Yeah.
day, but she's so busy.
Yeah,
I
she's
haven't
amazing.
really been able to do
Yeah,
that yet.
she's amazing. She had a hand in passing this bill in all those states. So she's just incredible. And I'd like to give a shout out to the other girls on her team that are just incredible. Jamin, Shara, and Cassandra Scott. I mean, I've been taking direction from them, and they are just, so passionate about this cause. And there's a lot of people working on this behind the scenes, and I'm just one of the lucky few that tagged along and sort of documented the story for my future documentary called Fighting for Sunshine, which is about saving Florida wildlife and protecting our planet.
So I was going to say, that's fascinating, and I wanted to talk to you about that because I know that you've been shooting and working on the documentary. So, and with being somebody that's grown up in Florida and watched the change over all these years, what sort of what aspects are you trying to capture, or what brought you to this documentary, and tell us a little bit more about what you've been shooting with that.
Yeah, so I've just been following my heart as far as which stories have been inspiring me, and I really wanted to make a film that was a celebration of nature and just show people all the biodiversity that we have here in Florida and why it's so special and that's taken me along the journey with the shark fin bill and also the clean water movement, because I was deeply affected and super emotional about the red tide outbreak in 2018 that washed onto our beaches here in Sarasota, where I'm from. And so it's just a story about me growing up as a Floridian and all the conservation stories that have, stolen my heart over the past few years, and sort of try and show people what's worth protecting and why Florida is so special with all the different various forms of wildlife that we have.
Beautiful. When I was down there, I was amazed. There's just so much there between, the East Coast, the West Coast, the Everglades. There are so many
Yeah,
forms of ecosystems in there. It was really an
yeah,
incredible place. So I'm very excited to hear more about the film, and I think I'm going to put a link down as soon as the show ends, and I'll make sure to put it on the audio versions as well, so everybody can click on, go check it out, and keep up with Wilson as well. Now, Wilson, I was
yeah.
curious, for people that aren't too familiar with Florida, what are your main... Actually, you know what? Before I ask you that, first I want to say hi to Tanya for joining us today. Thank you, Tanya, for being here with us. And Sherry, yes, definitely, if you can, follow everything Wilson does. He's right in the heart of it. And Vicky Palmer said, "Wow, thank you, Wilson McCourtney, as well." Real quick, before I get to my next question, could you show us your tattoo?
Oh
Let's
yeah,
take a look here.
I got hammerheads
I
schooling around.
love that. Look at that.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
it's kind of hard to see in the way. Yeah,
Fantastic.
I love sharks.
See? Look at that. Oh, that's
Yeah,
beautiful. Oh, yeah, okay.
sharks, cameras, I'm all about.
And I like that because you
I
have
wanted to
taken
mention.
your passion
Yeah,
and you can't stop. You see something that needs to be said, you see nature in danger, and it's just your instinct to jump in there and grab your camera and try to share it with everybody. And I know you've been working with, Scott Wilson, and you've been working with all of the clean water movement and the pesticide issues
Yeah.
that Florida's facing as well.
Yeah.
So,
One of the things I would like to mention about the shark fin bill too, before we blow past it, is that we're not only saving sharks with this bill, we're saving our diving tourism industry. Okay. So there's over $220 million in revenue every year that's brought in from basically sharks for the diving tourism industry. People fly around all over the world to come to Florida to see sharks. And if we keep finning and allowing them to be wiped off the face of the planet, we'll lose all of our revenue from those dive resources. So it's really a story about saving sharks, our diving tourism industry, and how much more money it generates than people do allowing commercial fishermen just to catch a few fins here and there.
That's a great point, by the way. That is a big thing where a lot of places where they're running into endangered animals or they're running into major issues is to try to re-educate and go towards ecotourism dollars instead of just direct industry or extraction dollars. And I think that's a great point. I mean, like I was saying, Jupiter, Florida is world famous. When I first started diving, that's all everybody said. You got to go to Florida, go see the sharks, or go to the caves. But I've always, Jupiter is actually a place I've never been able to dive, and so it's still on my, top list because it's really some of the most incredible interacting areas.
Yeah, it's the shark highway. Okay, it's because of the Gulf Stream runs right through there, and we have fresh water coming in through the Atlantic, and the sharks, it's their highway. They love it, and it's good visibility. It's always pretty warm, and it's super sharky, and it's amazing.
I like the sound of it. When I surf, I don't like to hear the word super sharky, but when I dive, I do.
Yeah, exactly.
What? So now in Florida, I'm really curious. What kind of sharks are there localized, or do you know what kind of sharks that the fishermen are targeting, and are any of those in the area around you guys endangered?
Yeah, we have a ton of sharks here in Florida, which makes it really fun and exciting. We have a large blacktip population. We have silkies, duskies, lots of bull sharks, occasional tigers, hammerheads, and some reef sharks, obviously down in the Keys. So there are, a bunch of sharks that are on a list, CITES list, that need extra protection because we're just not seeing too many of them anymore. And all sharks are important at this point. You know what I mean? So they all need our protection.
Camilla wanted to say, make sure that Wilson knows we say well done if you can't see the comments. A lot of people are very excited about the work that you're doing there. And
awesome.
So amazing.
The list keeps changing. Eric, the list for the sharks that need extra protection keeps changing. The Mako shark just got put on the CITES list. So that was big and huge. Blue sharks definitely need our help, and the great hammerhead. So there's another issue that's going on that is sort of parallel to this, which is land-based shark fishing. We're losing some sharks that way, and that issue is extremely controversial because people want to come down here from Massachusetts or wherever they're from, and they want to trophy hunt, and they want to go on the beach and land a massive shark and get their photograph for Instagram. But by the time they push that shark back into the water, not many of them survive. So, shark fishing from the beach is also a major issue.
So it's legal in Florida to do it from the beach. Like in California, they're allowed to, just not great white.
Yeah, well, I should hope not. I don't even know if we can catch a great white, but the FWC just put stricter regulations on what people can and can't do from the shore and from the pier, so that's great. But we've been watching these horrific videos over the past 10 years of people just mishandling sharks, and then unfortunately a lot of those sharks, they look big and ferocious, but they don't survive that fight. These fights can be 2 hours long for a big tiger shark and stuff, and by the time these people stand on their head and pull their jaw back. I don't know if you've seen the videos.
I saw that most recent one.
To send off. It's like some frat boy mentality. I don't understand it. But by the time they put the shark back, a lot of those sharks don't survive. So that's super sad and it's hard to watch. But you also don't want people chumming the waters,
Right.
close to the
Right.
beach. Do you want to take your kids to go swim at a beach where there's a bloody chum bucket 100 yards out past the buoy? I don't think
Exactly.
so. Sharks into a public place, so that's hazardous. Um, and also, fishing them from a pier isn't great either because they're chumming all over the pier. They
Right.
have a ton of lines in the water. They catch a fish, and some of these piers are 50 to 100 feet up. By the time they pull that shark all the way up that 50 to 100 feet, and they take the hook out and they get their picture and they high five their buddy and then they take a swig of their beer and they throw it overboard, that shark's not going to make it.
I don't know if you guys, we have an issue here. Many years ago on the 4th of July, just like the movie Jaws, a friend of mine actually was accidentally bit by a great white in Manhattan Beach, and he was a swimmer. His name was Steve Robles. And he was swimming, and there was a guy who was fishing off the pier. And the problem is he was targeting great whites, which are endangered, and this is a great white nursery area. And when they're
Yeah.
younger, what they do is they look down and they just eat skates, rays, things off the ground until they're old enough to learn how to be able to also hunt in an upward fashion. So a lot of them are very much around us all the time, but they're just staring at the bottom. So this guy had his traps down at the bottom and caught it and then entangled the guys as he was swimming. He's like a long distance swimmer. And the guy got bit by that. But that became a major issue out here because what we found is that people were fishing off the pier and then struggling and then taking them down and walking down to the beach where it was legal to land them. And it was just this
Yeah.
horrible loophole that they had found a way to get around. There's certain string you're not allowed to use if it's too heavy because it's meant for certain types of bigger sharks. We have kind of those regulations here, but it
Yeah.
still doesn't stop, these people. So I think, I'm glad to hear that the regulations are getting stronger because there needs to be, more done. And it comes back to that horrible idea of us wanting to tame this, ferocious beast. And, people think it's, and if they only knew how to themselves and frightened and timid sharks are. I've been on shark diving expeditions around Catalina Island. We got to go with Ocean Ramsey and a few people, and we couldn't even find any. And we were out there, and we were in a very distant, remote area. We were chumming. Sharks are so shy that you're lucky if you ever get to see one when you're in the water.
Yeah. They have amazing sensory built into their bodies and their system. So they'll come swim up to check you out. But other than that, they want to be left alone and, on a scuba dive or something like that. So they're not seeking to hunt you out, and they are shy in that way, for sure.
Do you have a favorite shark that you like to see when you're underwater?
Yeah, I love hammerheads. Hammerheads are my thing. My bucket list dive is to go to the Galapagos and see them schooling like that.
Incredible. Yeah, me too. Yeah, we may have to make that happen. That sounds like that's an adventure I would love to have.
Yeah.
That and to go down to the Cocos
Yeah.
together.
One thing I'd like to mention is that so by Oceana's report that there's 100 million sharks per year that are dying. 70 million of those sharks are being sold and transformed through the fin trade.
Mm.
So that leaves 30 million sharks uncounted for. So where are those sharks and what are they doing? Where are they going? So one of my heroes, this whole conservation world, as far as filmmakers go, is Rob Stewart. And so he's got an amazing film out called Sharkwater Extinction and Sharkwater. And unfortunately, we lost him in a really tragic dive situation a couple years ago. But he touched on a really interesting fact that there's 30 million sharks that are uncounted for, and he did a lot of research, and under his uncoverings, he found out that sharks are not only being sold for the fin trade, but they're being put into cosmetics and pet food. So they are, fishing sharks for their liver oil, which people use for lipstick and stuff like that. So if women are out there and they're listening, make sure when you're buying beauty products and cosmetics, it's squalene free. Now, it gets a little confusing because some of the squalene is plant-based, but basically you just have to make sure that that squalene isn't being derived from shark oil and shark liver. So Rob Stewart always said one of his greatest quotes is, "People have no idea they're rubbing and smearing endangered super predators all over their face." So sharks are being caught and sold for other things besides just the fins. And it looks like they're accounting for about 30 million of them are going into pet food and cosmetics.
Do you know if
And
the shark?
fish oil. Sometimes fish oil, like the supplement, can be straight shark oil, which is not good for you because that has a ton of mercury in it too. So be careful about some of these products that you're buying. They could be filled with sharks if it says squalene.
Squalene. Okay, that's great to know. That's a tricky one. That's true.
Yeah.
Some people look at the ingredients, they just give up at the third word that makes no sense.
Yeah,
So.
well, they disguise it with a different name. They would never put shark oil on it because you wouldn't use that lipstick on your lips, probably.
And for pet food, that's frightening.
But there's a
too.
great girl named
So much.
Yeah, there's an amazing girl named Shark Guardian Mel who was friends with Rob Stewart, who is leading a campaign to get MAC to stop using squalene in their lipstick. She has been successful with that, although I'd have to follow up.
Fantastic. Oh, that's great. Yeah, I'll have to check that out because that's actually a very important aspect. And at the moment, it's hard to find websites that have a lot of resource on what to do. And again, I do want to tell everybody, go to sharkallies.com, right? And that is one of the best resources where you can learn all about sharks. You can watch incredible videos. There's a lot of educational material. And as we had said earlier, the re-education is the important part. And I like that Shark Allies works so hard to re-educate on a one-to-one level. And I like that you're out shooting documentary and shooting film so you can help educate on also a larger level. Because, without people like Rob Stewart, we wouldn't have known what was happening. I remember his documentary really also inspired me to just stop doing what I was doing and try to make a difference. And he was one of, Shark Water was one of the really pivotal films in that. And especially to see the misunderstood aspects of it. And, it just kills me to see Discovery continuing with Shark Week. And I mean, it's nice to see people get excited about sharks, but it's sad to see them get excited about the wrong aspects of them. I think there's a reverse anthropomorphism of, where what we do is we say, well, don't give them human personalities, but then we give them what we like from our human personalities. So that's why people use the word shark attack, because they think it's a hunter and it's this big, like this macho hunting thing. But in fact, it's kind of, I think somewhat the opposite, where they're very timid and they're just trying to eat. And, we've seen a lot of great videos where the sharks can't even get the seals, and they don't always succeed. So people have this big misconception of them, and
it's sensationalized. I love Shark Week too because some of those filmmakers and those cinematographers are my heroes. Andy Casagrande
He's a legend.
And Joe Romero and those guys. I always watch Shark Week and I DVR it, so I record it. But as soon as I see an episode on there about an attack, I immediately delete it. I only watch the stuff with Andy Casagrande and Joe Romero.
His work is great.
You just have to be, once you're informed and you're well educated about the subject matter, you can kind of pick and choose what you're willing to digest. And, sharks are an easy target, right? They are big and scary, and they have these massive teeth in this historical context of being these man-eaters. So it's very easy for a network to pick up on sharks and sort of put them in this light where it's sensationalized and it will, scare people. And then they get good ratings because for whatever reason, humans have this morbid curiosity about shark attacks and stuff like that. And it's just the same thing as why, the news channel will show a horrific car accident on TV because people will stop and look. And it's kind of the same thing with sharks.
It's a good point. That's a very good point.
But I'm going to continue to keep making these videos where I show the beauty of sharks and how majestic they are and how just, they kind of like a little bit of human interaction and affection, and how you can free dive with them with just a snorkel and some fins and be right there with them for hours and hours and at a time. and nothing bad will happen to you. You know, that's my way of giving back and changing the paradigm shift.
I love that. And watching the video that you shot, you can see the love that you have for them in there. You know, it comes across through your lens. You can see that infatuation and, you know, just the absolute being drawn into the beauty of their motion. It
Yeah.
really is beautiful work.
It's amazing to be in close proximity to an apex predator that's been here for 400 million years, you know? It just blows you away every time
That's it.
you're that close to a shark. There's something so visceral and so exciting and electric and like a lightning bolt of, you know, just pure joy for me, you know, I just feel so grateful to be in the ocean with my camera and with those sharks and those amazing people that run those dive operations. Shout out to Shark Addicts. Those guys are cool. And the Florida shark diving crew too, out there in Jupiter, they all do great work where they, you know, drop people in the water with these sharks, and one group at a time, they're changing people's minds and showing them that they're really beautiful, and you can spend time with them, and you don't have to be scared.
I love that. And you know, we are lucky that you're out there with your camera, with everybody doing this too, because you're giving us a window into a world that a lot of people don't get to look into. And the more we can see it, the more we can understand it. Those of us that are landlocked, you know, and I think it's just some of the most important work that can be done. So, you know, from my side, also want to thank you and Shark Allies for all the work you guys do, because it's tireless. You know, it's nobody's paying you to do it. You know, you do it because it's from your heart, and
Yeah,
you know that it needs to be done, and
yeah,
you know that your kids want to have a decent environment in the future, and every step that we take is an important aspect to saving the future for them. Yeah, Amy says, I love sharks so much and love that you've devoted so much to protecting these precious and amazing creatures. Thank you. People need to be educated so that they can participate in helping sharks. Which brings me to my next point. How so if people are watching right now and they say, what can I do to get involved? I'd like to make a difference somehow. You know, where would you recommend that people jump in and give a hand?
yeah. So I think offering to volunteer Shark Allies or Oceana, um, would be a great start. And just watch as many, you know, shark docs as you can, and sort of figure out what the real issues are. I'm sure Shark Guardian Mel would love some help and support on her mission to put an end to squalene being added to all the cosmetic products. There's a million ways that people can help sharks. And you can also just start really small. Just talk to your friends, just educate them. Anytime a story about the ocean comes up, just say, did you know that we kill over 100 million sharks a year, and blah, blah, blah. You know, it always helps just change the mindset so that people can sort of soften up and warm up to these beautiful creatures before they're gone. You know, my big fear is that I won't be able to do this dive in Jupiter with my son when he turns 18,
Hmm.
you know. And we need to act now. We don't have time. It's just like the same urgency as climate change. You know, sharks need help now, or else, you know, the fin trade will wipe them out, and we don't know what the ramifications will be. So there's a lot of little steps that you can do. You can just go to the beach in plastic. You know,
Yeah.
anything will help.
It's a good point. You know, just from it, picking up any plastic, like, you know, as surfers, we have a rule. You have to pick up a bunch of plastic before you go in and when you're coming back out from the water as well.
Yeah, that way you have good karma and you actually get the wave you want.
Exactly, exactly. Before you enter the ocean, you have to show a little respect, one way or the other. Always,
Yeah,
you know, because it is a living
yeah,
entity and it's such its own universe. And I think that's another aspect where
yeah,
people get a little frightened, you know, because it has its different kind of laws, and they feel, you know, there's that fear of the
yeah.
unknown. So the more work that you do, the more it brings that knowledge to us, and the more it can help re-educate people for a better future.
Yeah, there is an action alert I can tell people to
Yes,
do right now, tonight.
yes.
So we have a lot of phone calls that need to be made to these senators by tomorrow morning. So if people are feeling inspired right now as they're watching, go to my Facebook page, and I posted where, you know, you saw the video that you ran at the beginning of the show. There's a post on there, and if you read halfway through down, there's an action alert with a list of about 15 senators that you can call. If you're a Floridian, they're not even going to answer the phone. You just leave them a voicemail. It's super easy. You just click call and say, hello, my name is whatever, whatever. I'm from, Tampa, Florida, and I would kindly ask you to vote yes on Bill SB 680. And so by making all those phone calls, even though nobody's answering, they are being recorded and documented, and that is forcing these legislators to, support our bill. So you can do that immediately tonight. I've probably called 30, 40 senators in the past days, and it's 10 minutes total, and you can get through a list of about 15 people, and in the end you're like, okay, I did something today. Every day is a new day, and that just feels like a good win-win for everybody.
I like that. And the Sharks really need this, and they really need your, what you're doing.
Yeah.
So it's, again, and a lot of people are saying thank you so much, and a lot of people are very appreciative, I think, on behalf of the Sharks, because SB 680, support the bill. That's what Sherry says.
Yeah.
Yes, Sherry. And Sherry,
Yeah.
just to make sure, what Wilson was saying, and Michelle said she will do, which means she's going to start making the calls. So everybody that's watching, please go to Wilson McCourtney's page. I have it on the initial ad for this. I will put it back on as soon as we end the podcast, or you can just look him up and go on there. He's got all the information listed. Make those phone calls. Your voice is important. We can make a difference. And Wilson, one thing you were saying that was important is one big way we can change the future is by always talking. If people bring up the ocean, tell some real stories. Bring in some, give them something that they can learn about, instead of just the things that they're always hearing from Jaws and from the media and all these things. And I think it's important because we are in a time where, with the internet, we are all the knowledge that each other needs to learn from and move forward. So, it's important that we educate ourselves, and it's important that we help educate everybody around us for the love of each other and for the love of the planet. So I really...
Exactly. And just go diving. Go snorkeling. You don't have to go on one of these crazy shark dives in Jupiter or whatever. You can take your kids down to the Florida Keys and just go to Penny Camp and go on a little snorkel and show them the coral reef. You're going to inspire your children to be ocean conservationists, just like me and Eric, and that is where the big change will come. It all has to do with the next generation.
Absolutely.
And in Fighting for Sunshine, my film, at the end, I am going into a scene where I'm talking about handing off the planet to the next generation, and that's really the key here. I have 2 young boys, and basically my big dream in life is to make sure that when they're adults and they have their own family, they can still take their kids out and see some gorgeous wildlife here in Florida the way I do.
Oh, that's beautiful. I have a feeling they will, with all the effort that you guys are putting in. So,
yeah, I can tell you one thing they're going to see on a dive. They're going to see a lot of plastic, so that's a different issue.
Right.
So
we're one at a time.
But there's a lot of young new activists that are coming up, new shark lovers, new ocean conservationists, and they're incredible. And I've filmed with a few of them in the end of my documentary. So hopefully you guys will be able to meet those kids on the screen and just get inspired by them. And like I said, just take your kids diving, take your kids hiking, get them in nature, whatever it is. Take them to the beach more often, and pick up some plastic and go for a swim and have fun.
Exactly. Let them go enjoy it. There is nothing like that feeling of getting in there and seeing it. And like you said, you can snorkel. You don't even have to go very far, and you can see all kinds of beautiful other world,
Exactly.
And it's, now is an important time that we need to not be afraid of that other world, and we need to bring that other world into us, because we are destroying it in so many different fashions. But the one thing we need to do right now is to help the populations, especially of these endangered animals, but to help the populations rebound, and they can. And by the bill that you're working on, it's going to help, because that is going to give them a chance. It's going to give the population a break from the pressures that are just driving it into extinction right now. And again, I want to really thank you for all these efforts, because you are changing the future.
Yeah, Mother Earth is very resilient.
Yeah.
She will bounce back, but she needs grace and she needs time, and she needs us to hit the pause button on all these destructive behaviors that we have. So that's the hope. That's the good news. It's really easy for conservationists to get bummed out and depressed. Like, every time you turn around, there's some other issue that's just heinous and disgusting and just like rubs you the wrong way. But really, we just have to keep our eyes on the prize and know that if we do the next right thing, we'll give Mother Earth that grace and that time to heal, and then things will bounce back rather quickly.
And I think I love how you said that too, because it will come back, if we can just find ways to not, just to leave it alone. And there's so many great examples of fish populations that have resurged. And, watching Mission Blue, I really liked how Sylvia Earle talked about, and I always talk about this in conservation in all aspects. We need hope spots. They're not hot spots, they're hope spots, because
Yeah.
they can rebound, and we are led to believe in a lot of ways that we can't do anything to help the environment. Maybe we can vote somebody in or whatever, but in fact we actually do have the power to make a big change. And what we need are just answers and solutions or ideas. And I think that that's very important. Too often it is a doom and gloom kind of conservation approach. It's just too easy for so many people. And I think what I like is that you're focused on the hope spot as well. Finding solutions and
Yeah.
finding handles to let all of us come in and help with the problem and help lift it up and change it.
Yeah. Because it's all hands on deck right now. We need everybody
Yeah.
involved. We need to care about the planet. And it's the best playground in the world, really, the ocean and all the beautiful nature that we have here in Florida. So it's a win-win for everybody. And you're just going to look back at your life when it's all said and done. This is the big takeaway for me, is that this is what gives me strength to fight every day. I always say I want to look back at my life when it's all said and done and said I showed up to make a difference, and I'll be the most proud of that. It won't be how much money I made or how big of a house I had or how many SUVs in the driveway. It'll be, did I help sharks? Did we pass this legislation? Did I, was I very vocal about, ocean conservation? Those will be the things that I'll remember. And I think rings true for most people on the planet as well.
Perfectly said. Yes, beautifully said. I agree 100%. That's going to be, that is the most important. I see Molly says, support your work and will definitely call. Sherry said, it's time to become a hyper activist. Get involved and love nature. It's the only thing we can truly leave to our children. And Michelle says, upsetting when many continually said the planet is dead. Yeah, and that's the thing, is people are too focused on that negativity. So, everybody, I'm very excited. Make sure to go to Wilson's page. He's a very inspirational filmmaker, and he's got a positive outlook and one of the many solution offerers out there, and one of the best conservationists. And I know, as I said, Wilson, I'm a fan of your shooting, I'm a fan of your work, and I can't wait to see this documentary also. And everybody, make sure to go to that link and go check out that documentary as well. We're all going to be waiting to watch it. And it's going to be important because we need these kinds of conversations happening. So I just wanted to thank you again for all your work, and thank you for being on the show today, man. I learned so much from talking to you today. And that's the most incredible part about conservation. There's always more to learn.
Yeah, it was super fun.
All right. Thanks a lot, man. Talk soon.
All right.
And there we are, everybody. It was an incredible, incredible show today. I couldn't believe we had Wilson McCourtney on. Please go to his Facebook page, or go to his Dream Reef Cinema website, because it is some of the most beautiful work you will see. Absolutely incredible. And the guy has so much passion, and he's making a change. So, and Michelle, thank you. And yes, Mitch sent Wilson a friend request. Great. Oh, hey, Kim, nice to see you. And yeah, Kim, if I don't know if you guys have been able to check out the whole episode or not, but Wilson did have a call to action. And again, if everybody can go this evening to Wilson's Facebook page, check out what's happening with this shark finning bill. Call these senators, put some pressure on them. Remember, he is offering solutions. So what he's saying is, you know what, we can stop this, just make these phone calls. So, again, we do have the power, and even though we're meant to feel powerless, or we're meant to feel overwhelmed by a lot of negative stories, or getting a flood of negativity when it comes to conservation, remember that we are the cure. Yeah, maybe we are the virus, but we're also the cure. And so that's all that matters, because one Wilson McCourtney can take down 100,000 bad guys. And I mean that, and I've seen it in the field. and it is. And as long as we all stay together and we work together, we are going to change everything as it is, because we are all at the point where we're done tolerating it. And so anyway, today was an incredible episode. For me, it was very, very exciting to have Wilson on. Please go check him out, and I'm going to put some more links down there. And I want to thank everybody for being here this week. I know I was gone for a few weeks, and it was really fantastic to be back and see everybody's names and comments. And Molly, it's good to see you on here again too, and all my friends as well. That, you know, a lot of good familiar faces and some new names that I haven't seen before. So it's always exciting when that happens on an episode here. So if you can, you know, we're going to be back next week on Facebook and on YouTube. I will put the link down there. Please go to the YouTube channel, click on subscribe to make sure you don't miss anything. And thank you all for tuning in. As I always say, it's our world. Let's talk about it.